Hello everybody, this is a video I've been promising to do for quite some time now. Never got around to it, but today I am. So this is the reassembly of the HG123 remade. So this time hopefully I'll get a better shot of the parts and where they go as regards to the hammer assembly, because the barrel and trigger are pretty straightforward parts. I will take them out anyway. So I've now got all the parts out that I can get out, and to reassemble, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this metal piece here, this bar, I'm going to slot it in there. So there's a little cut out and groove. You should be able to see roughly where it's been moving as regards the movement of grease inside the pistol. So that just drops in with the two pins at the front of the gun pointing up. I'm then going to get the trigger and the trigger spring. There's a little hook on the front of the trigger. That spring goes on there. The other end of this spring goes on this little silver pin here at the front. Put it over that. The trigger has two holes in it. Those two holes will line up and sit through these two pins on the first metal bar, the trigger bar that you put in. So I'll just do that now. It will try and jump out a couple of times, that's normal. Just make sure you get it seated. So that's in like that. The next bit I'm going to do is I'm going to get this silver bar that came out. That's going to go in this plastic slot above the trigger bar. So what you've got, in case more of yours fall out, is you've got a thick pin that is quite thick. So that's the thickest one at the back. You've then got the thinnest in the middle, which has the taller upright to secure it. And then you have a medium sized one, which is the one that I've just put in. The next bit I'm going to put in is this bit here. Now you can see it's held together by a little spring, so make sure that that's attached. I managed to pull this out in one piece. If you're careful you can do. Will it come in two? You'll struggle. It will come out in one piece for you unless you undo this screw. So this is all one piece, and that sits that way around. Oop, let me get that better. That way around. And it goes over this front pin here. It also has a little stud at the bottom of the right hand leg, as you see it now. So this leg on the other side has a little stud that goes into the trigger bar and seats like that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get this little silver bit here, which has a long sticky out bit on one side and that on the other. That long sticky out bit wants to point to the, as I have it, as point towards the plastic and the table, and it mounts onto this middle stud, so the thinnest. It just goes in like that, literally just drops in. The next bit is the hammer assembly. So you've got the spring, you've got the hammer, you've got what is basically the safety bar. Spring goes in the underside of the hammer with the short leg of the spring going up into this groove here, like that. Spring wants to be my side, so this side of the little stud, and it then mounts onto this pin here, this thick pin at the back. The last bit that you put in, so this bit with the pin sticking out one side, that wants to be as high up in the gun as it'll go. In fact, there is a spring that we will be attaching to it shortly. So, but to get the hammer in, it wants to be as high up as it'll go. That allows the hammer to slip over its pin. The spring that's kicking out of the bottom wants to rest on that bit of the plastic here. So it wants to go inside that, which can be a bit of a fiddly job, especially if it doesn't want to play, because it is quite a strong spring. Just give me a second. So it goes in like that. There is a bit of metal here, you may have noticed. That is just for show. If it falls out, you just drop it back in there. So it's a little cylindrical piece with a narrow end and a fat end, and the narrow end goes to the back. It's just a fake firing pin to give it some more realisticness. And then finally you want this piece, the black bit that came off the hammer, that slots over the same pin the hammer just went on. Literally just sits on top of it. So that's the bit that will actually knock the cylinder to allow gas to escape. I mentioned the spring before. Now it's going to be difficult to see because the hammer's in the way, but just underneath this metal bit here, down there, there's a pin, and that pin has a really small spring on it. That spring needs to be resting against the top of this bar. So just give me a second. Might be worth taking that bit back out, holding it with the spring with a screwdriver like I am, and then dropping it back in. Yeah, I'd recommend doing that. Just seems a bit easier. The next bit's putting the barrel in. You've got two studs on the trigger assembler. They go through these two holes on the barrel. It just literally drops on top into the groove in the weight at the front. And the last bit is the cylinder itself. That just slots into there. A bit of playing around with it to get it to seat right. Is a tight squeeze, press it in, make sure that the barrel hasn't jumped out like mine just did, and that is everything where it should be, correctly seated. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the other side back on, so just carefully lowering it. Over. 3 long black screws that you took out are in that hole, and that hole. Screw those back down. Nice and tight, but not too tight, so you feel a bit of tension build up and then go a little bit further, because otherwise you will strip the plastic out of the threads. and then it won't hold together properly. Speaking from experience. If you do that, I've learned a tip is if you take the top half off and you put a little bit of super glue down the hole, allow it to dry, and then put the screw back through, it should re-tap itself, so you'll get a nice secure fastening again, but it is only a small amount. Next bit is the safety. So the long bar goes through the hole at the back. The square notch, or slightly shaped notch, goes through this square hole here, like so. Screw goes in the back, this little silver one. And then whack the grips back on. Again, not too tight, otherwise you'll strip the threads. Like I have with that one. Put the slide on, just rest it down at the front, push it back until it clips into place, and that's you done. All set to go. So I hope you found this video helpful. I hope it was slightly better than the original, and thank you for watching.